Now, if we zoom out and take a look at what things are looking like, we can work out our next steps. Now, since this directional light is pointing in from the right-hand side, it only illuminates from the right-hand side. Usually, we don't want a situation where we have too much unlit areas or insufficiently lit areas in our scene. So the blacks that we have here, for example, on the opposite side of those walls are too black. We might want them to be in shadow, but at the moment they are too black. To begin to address that, we need to consider another concept in lighting, and that is three-point lighting. Now, three-point lighting is something that is borrowed from conventional photography or film, and basically that means that you have objects that are lit from different sides at the same time. So for example, in three-point lighting, the two main lights in that setup are the key light and the fill light. The key light, if you like, let's have this one, this directional light as the key light, but to illuminate from the other side, from the other direction, we need to have a fill light as well. So what I'm going to do, I'll duplicate this directional light, and you can see because now there's two directional lights in the same place, the illumination is twice as much. But if I rotate that second light around, that will become our fill light, you can see that the lighting now is becoming much more even. So even though depending on the angle that it's pointing to, this light is illuminating only partially the opposite side of those walls, it's nevertheless not black. So it's still in shadow, but it's not black. So what I'm going to do now is treat these two directional lights with one being the key light and the other one being the fill light. Now usually the key light is the strongest light in your scene. Now depending on the ratio between the two, you can have a fairly even distribution of light. So there's not much difference between the key light and the fill light. But if the key light is much stronger than the fill light, then what you're going to have is darker shadows, so a more theatrical or more atmospheric type of setup. So looking at our current situation, we can go in and make adjustments to the intensities of those two lights. Now, if you select a light and if you go to Window, Attribute Editor, it opens up the attributes for that light. The attribute editor is a general editor, but depending on what you're selecting, whether it's an object, a light, a camera, a material, it'll open up appropriate parameters. So take a look at these parameters for the light. We can see here, for example, type of light, color, intensity. So by default, intensity of all lights is 1, the value of 1. So if I select this light, this can be, say, our key light. I'll keep that at 1. But what I'll do is I'll select the other light, and what I'll do is I'll lower the intensity. So let's just say 0.4. Okay, so, and again, depending on the direction that it's pointing to, you can see that it is less than half as intense as the key light. So you do get shadows from that direction, but it's not black. So if this were 0, then clearly there's no longer any illumination, so everything is reduced to black. What I'll do for now is just keep the intensity, maybe I'll just have it at 0.5, and we'll take that as the first step.